What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing well. It's been so long since I've made a full-length video. It's been a very long time, so apologies for the rust on these videos. But I hope you guys are doing well. Today we're back with another topic suggestion video. And on the channel and on our page, we'd like to open the floor to you guys to leave suggestions on topics you'd like to see me do a video about, whether it's something that's going on currently around the world, something you're personally involved in, any topic that you'd like to see me talk about. Feel free to leave it in the comment section below and we can discuss and have an open conversation. I'll make a video about it and we can go back and forth, things like that, really get the community going. But today's suggestion we are going to talk about is about the DC fandom and about certain things going on in the DC, how we can perhaps unite the two of them, the two fan bases I'm going to be talking about today. We're going to read a bit of the comment and then we're going to go into my thoughts, and then you guys can leave your thoughts in the comment section and we can talk about it back and forth. And things like that. But let's go into the comment. Let's get the intro out of the way. Let's jump straight into the comment. So today's comment and suggestion is from Jason Hedgley 7900. Thank you so much for the suggestion. We've been talking back and forth actually about what we think about DC, what we think about the movies, what we think about a lot of different aspects that's been going on. But in this comment, he raised the question and he said, you should do a video on what could unite the fans. This is now the DC fans. Maybe a DCU and DCEU crisis event. And this comment was actually on a previous video I made about the Millie Alcock situation, where she was getting a lot of hate for the role of Supergirl. People were making fun of her looks. People were saying she doesn't deserve the role. Usual internet things, when a cast happens. But that actually got me talking to Jason now in the comment section, and he sparked this idea. And this got me thinking actually about the huge differences in like how DC is handling their movie properties right now and their superhero properties, I should say, and the way Marvel has done it. Marvel, I'm just going to touch on Marvel quickly. I'm not going to make this about the MCU or anything like that, but I just want to talk about it quickly because it ties in to our topic today. The MCU, in its large entirety, has just been one cinematic universe. That is the whole premise. That is the whole base of why the MCU is as good as it was, and kind of is, I guess you could say, if you still enjoy it, and of why it was so successful. If you look at Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, he is Iron Man. From the first film all the way down to the last film. There's no recasts, nothing like that. He has been Iron Man for, the 10 years, and now he's got a new role as Doctor Doom. But, let's wait until Doomsday comes out to see what that is like. But, yeah, that is the basic, not the backbone of the MCU, but a lot of the MCU stays the same. As far as DC is concerned, there's been a lot of different castings for Superman. We obviously had the ones that come to mind right now is Christopher Reeve's Superman. I'm thinking of Brandon Routh's Superman in Superman Returns. I'm thinking of, I can't remember his name, but I'll put it up from in the Superman and Lois show. There's been a depiction of Superman. Obviously, we had Henry Cavill's Superman, and now we have David Cornsweet's Superman. So there's been a lot of iterations of Superman, and even Batman. You could go down the Batman list. There's always been different routes that DC has taken with their movies. Sorry guys, I just wanted to jump in here quickly and mention something I forgot to talk about in the video. Is also about the 2022 The Batman film with Robert Pattinson. Now that's also a DC product that is expanding. There's the first film that came out obviously in 2022, and the next one, The Batman Part 2, is coming out in 2027, so next year I believe. And as well as the Penguin series that was very well received, was highly rated amongst critics and amongst, Rotten Tomatoes and those scores as well. So that is also something I forgot to mention because it just came to me about that whole side of DC is also happening and also expanding, and a lot of people did like that interpretation. So is that Batman going to continue as well, and as well is going to be a DCU Batman? Because I haven't heard a lot, like the fandom of that film isn't as big, I guess, as you could say, as the other two, Snyderverse and James Gunn fans. That's like a separate entity. There's so many directions that DC went. But I just thought I wanted to mention here because it is something I forgot. But anyway, back to the video. But the question that's posed is, how do we unite the fans? And the two big fan bases we'll be talking about is the Snyderverse fan base. We've got the new James Gunn fan base, because there's a lot of people that like, both. There's a lot of fans that like one or the other. And there are also some fans that like both. So if you ask me how to unite the two of them, it's going to be difficult initially, because the thing is, especially with the way Snyderverse's movies was going on, a lot of people will bring up the critic ratings and the reviews about the movies, about Man of Steel, about Batman vs. Superman, about Justice League, Snyder Cut, which is like 4 hours. I enjoyed it personally. The length isn't that much of a problem to me. But if you look at that, there's a lot of fans that like that adaptation and that take on the DC characters, of how grounded, how the tone of the movies feel, how Superman feels like a god in the movie. He feels so godly. His presence is felt on the earth. When he's flying, there's sonic booms, the earth is shaking as he travels through the sky, and when he lands, there's an impact, you know? It almost feels like the real world, like if we had to like have our cameras and, oh my word, there goes Superman. Like, you know, he flies, he speeds past the camera. So many things. I'm just referring to Man of Steel right now. But a lot of people like the way and the tone of that movie, you know, for certain reasons. You can let me know in the comment section below why you do like that movies. And then also with the new DCU James Gunn Superman movie that came out last year, a lot of people like the more comic book aesthetic. It's a lot brighter. It's a lot more, I guess you could say, fun. You know, there's more comedy as well. Not that there wasn't comedy in the Snyderverse movies, but the comedy is very prevalent in these movies, you know. And as far as the fighting is, the fighting is shot differently. It looks different. The tone of the movie is very different as well compared to the Snyderverse. It's a lot more lighter, if you know what I mean. Like in terms of, it's not so serious and, oh my gosh, I've got the weight of the world on my shoulders and stuff like that. You know, it's more like I'm Superman and I'm a good guy. That is the take that happens in that film, which is not a problem. You know, you can prefer either or. But for me, there's a lot of toxicity in between the fan bases regarding these movies, because a lot of the gun fans will be pointing no pun intended, will be pointing guns towards Snyderverse fans, you know, who enjoyed those string of movies, you know, like Wonder Woman and everything like that came under that era. And people say it's too dark, it's too gloomy, you know. Why are superheroes so serious, you know? It should be fun, it should be like explosion and everything like that. So there's that side, and there's also the Snyderverse fans who are looking towards the James Gunn fans and saying, oh my word, how can you guys like the new stuff? You know, it's so goofy, it's so silly, it's so like comic booky. Not that comic bookness is like a bad thing or anything, but they just preferred the more serious tone in the Snyderverse movies. You know, the way it was done, the way the characters are, the way the movie is watched. And for me, if you want to unite them, like even Jason, he made a suggestion saying that you should do a crisis event maybe between both universes, you know. And I think it is okay to do something like that. But I think at the stage that the DCU, with Superman and Supergirl being released soon, and as well Superman Man of Tomorrow is being released, I believe, next year or something, I think it's difficult to do that so early. Ideally, if you ask me, how would I go about this? If I'm like at DC and they offer me maybe unlimited budget, okay, not unlimited budget, but they offer me to do a decision, I would say if you could continue the Snyder, you ask Zack Snyder, obviously, right? And you ask him, okay, how many movies will it take for you to perhaps wrap up your story in terms of maybe the Nightmare universe that they were building with Batman, and obviously that whole team where Superman, where Lois dies in that universe and Superman's kind of going berserk. You know, how far would we do that and continue the other storyline as well, where they beat Steppenwolf and now the next big bad is Darkseid? Like how many films and how would we go to progress that? That's what I would ask him. And if it takes 2 or 3 films to do it and to continue it, that'd be awesome. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the fans that DC gained through these films, you know, like Aquaman even, and not Blue Beetle, but Aquaman. I mean, The Flash to a certain extent. Maybe some people like the movie and they were like, oh my word, this is cool. And also like with the Zack Snyder's Justice League, all those films were leading to a point and it just never ended. You know, it just never reached a climax, not a climax, an end point. And they kind of just like left the movie and left the franchise where it was, you know, whether it was got to do with ratings, whether it was got to do with certain stuff behind the scenes, whatever. That whole thing happened. And now those fans are kind of leaving unfulfilled in a way. And DC's just like, oh no, we're just going to pivot now and we're going to do this whole new thing with James Gunn. And obviously a lot of fans of DC became fans of Superman or whatever through James Gunn's movie, and that's good, you know. But a lot of the Zack Snyder fans maybe feel like left behind, and they're not happy with the new tone and the new direction that Superman has gone in, and they kind of feel like they just got left behind. So I understand that point, you know, and it's difficult, like I said, for fans of the old movies to watch the new movies and pretend that like, okay, this is fine or whatever. I think you are free to dislike the new movies and not enjoy them for X, Y, and Z reason. But I mean, being toxic to a point of like attacking people online, attacking actors, whether it's toxicity, hate speech, making fun of their looks, making fun of this, making fun of that, whatever. I think that's too far, because then we've reached the point past judging the movie as a movie. And now we're going to attack like actors' personal lives and things like that. So I understand that there's passion behind this, but there's a line I feel like that you shouldn't cross. And then obviously with the James Gunn fans, they're happy to leave that era of DC behind. With Henry Cavill Superman, with Ben Affleck's Batman, they say, oh my word, it's so dark and it's so serious. But I think the tones between like that DC universe, and Marvel at the time was a good contrast and shift between it, because the MCU, especially nowadays, and towards the latter half of its Infinity Saga lifespan, and even after that, like it became a lot more jokey. I think Thor Ragnarok at its time was such a tonal shift in the movies that it was a very jokey movie, very comedy focused movie in my opinion. And I think that just opened the floodgates because it did so well and was so different. And now all the other movies perhaps try to emulate that, and for DC also to go in a similar type of way. Maybe a lot of the fans were interested in seeing like a darker or deeper take in terms of character progression, in terms of stakes, in terms of serious tones in the movie. Weren't a new fan of the new James Gunn stuff. And the James Gunn fans of the recent Superman movies, they're just like, okay, now we're happy to leave that behind. But at the end of the day, this is the bottom line for me, If you don't like the movies, it's okay not to like the movies, especially because it's going to be difficult to continue Zack Snyder's, his line of movies that he was working on, and his vision for the DC universe. Now to stick with this, it's difficult because Marvel doesn't have that problem. I know I said I wouldn't mention Marvel, but I'm going to mention it quickly. Marvel doesn't have that problem in terms of they had to shift narratives between certain creative aspects where the MCU was concerned. The MCU stuck to the base that it was going to go, and it ran its course. And whether some people liked it, whether some people didn't like it, it was up to the fans to decide that, And obviously a lot of things go into the successful nature of these movies in terms of critic scores, in terms of ratings, in terms of box office, in terms of general what's the word I'm looking for? The reception, general fan reception. Did they enjoy the movie or did they not? That's another thing that people are asking. And the thing is, like, especially with the new Superman movie, a lot of people liked it and a lot of people love this depiction of Superman. And the thing is, you can enjoy it. It's fine. Especially if you're on the internet, the thing is, if you have an opinion, a lot of voices can just jump at you in the comment section for having an opinion and saying whether you like or dislike something. I've never said this before, but I'm gonna say it now. My favorite Superman movie is actually not the 2025 Superman movie, and it's not even Man of Steel. Although I like aspects of both movies. My favorite Superman movie of all time is Superman Returns with Brandon Routh. I'm gonna say it now, and I love Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor. I love the movie. I love so many films about the movie. Maybe I should just talk about the movie in a separate video. But that's my favorite Superman movie, right, to watch. Okay? And even though I spoke about it in my Superman 2025, like, review kind of, I really like David Cornsworth's Superman in terms of how he looks on screen, what he does, how he embodies Superman. He really feels like Superman. I just didn't like a lot of things in the movie that takes place inside the movie itself as a movie, not got to do with him. And a lot of people are not happy about the casting of Millie Alcock as Supergirl. But if you don't like it, then you just leave it at that. Or you can say, okay, I don't think she suits X, Y, and Z. But like going past that and saying she looks like this, she looks like that, making memes. But that's the internet, the internet, especially when there's a running joke or there's a gag that's going on about someone, everyone's just looking for interactions, looking for likes, that you can jump on the train and gain some followers to your account or gain some likes or things like that. So people will do it, especially when there's a meme going around that's popular at the time, people will jump on it in case of like celebrity news or whatever, But it's just unfortunate that the internet has that culture surrounding it, and we should be free to like and dislike what we like. These movies, like I even mentioned in the comment section under that video to Jason, I think I enjoy the fact that there are so many different iterations of this, of Superman and of DC films, because at the end of the day, there's so many fans that can be interested, and you can be interested in whichever movie, and that will be what you enjoy, Whereas I guess you could say the MCU, if say for example, there's someone that doesn't enjoy Robert Downey Jr.'s is casting as Iron Man. You're not gonna find another Iron Man. You know what I mean? He is Iron Man, and I personally like it. Let me just state that. I personally like it. But if someone doesn't like how Robert Downey Jr. is as Iron Man, and they go to the comics and say, oh, no, but this isn't accurate. Tony wouldn't act like this, so on and so forth. That person has no other Iron Man to look at in terms of like on-screen presence, in terms of like a big budget movie behind it. There is no other way to look. And with DC, you have those options. You know, and also with Marvel, if you look at Spider-Man, obviously there's been different iterations of Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland, obviously as the current MCU Spider-Man. A lot of people were also flaming Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 when it came out. Flaming them. They don't even flame them now. You know, for liking those movies, for saying, oh my word, it's a mess of a movie, everything like that, you know. But you can enjoy the movie still, if you still like it. You know, a lot of people and a lot of fans are saying now, after the fact, give Andrew Garfield his Amazing Spider-Man 3 because of his role in Spider-Man No Way Home. So sometimes, you know, time allows things to change between people, people's opinions about movies and things like that. Perhaps in 10 or 15 years when we're looking back, okay, 10 is long, let's say 5 years, and we're looking back on the Superman films, and we're looking back on the Supergirl film, and we're looking back at what James Gunn is busy doing with the DC universe, maybe we'll appreciate it more. You know, it always comes down to that, in terms of people watching media and your opinion on things. Some things age better over time, and some things change, and your opinion changes on things, and that's okay, you know. But like, as far as uniting the two fan bases, like, I think it's best if it would be cool to just grow the DC universe, like James Gunn's universe, and at least allow Zack Snyder's Zack Snyder's DC projects to finish and reach its end, you know, because it's kind of like in this position where it just like sets up so many things. Like, he sets up Martian Manhunter, he sets up what's the guy's name again? Darkseid. He sets that up, and it never like got to that Infinity War level, you know. So that for me is my opinion. It would be cool to finish both sides and reach its end, because obviously the new project that DC is focusing on is James Gunn's universe, and for them to pivot into this direction, they obviously had reasons to do it. But as far as movies are concerned, that is where you as the fan are allowed to enjoy what you like, you know. But there's so many discourse, like especially on the internet, there's so much discourse between which is better, which is what, that, so on and so forth. But for me, I don't look at it like films that way. I wouldn't compare certain comedies to other comedies because I like certain parts about this movie. This movie exists solely in this bubble, and this other movie exists over here. You know, it's fine to like certain comedy movies and everything like that, and you would want to watch that or this other comedy for a certain reason. This movie is not necessarily like that movie. You know, Zack Snyder's Superman is not the same as James Gunn's Superman. And for fans, I guess, it's just because I think the way things were handled at DC prior was like not good, especially with the cast, and a lot of things in the background. It really didn't help the fact, you know. So that's my take and my opinion on this. This video got so long, so apologies for digressing here and there. You know, I was really trying to stay the course, but sometimes when I think of something, I just want to mention another point in it to kind of, you know, state my case. But let me know in the comment section, what do you think? How would you, I should say, unite these two fan bases? Because I think it's a very difficult ask, you know, for people just to accept the new DC films. Like, they really like it, but they don't actually. They want to see Zack Snyder's films continue. And also vice versa, for the other part of the fan base to just say, okay, no, we don't want those movies. We like what we like right now. Don't bring the other Zack Snyder films back, that tone and everything like that. Let me know in the comment section below, guys. That's going to be me 20 minutes yapping about the DC fandom and the DC movies. That's going to be all, guys. Thank you so much for the support. Like, sub, share, follow, all the good stuff on social media. I appreciate all your support. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.